Unhappy ANC members in the Moses Mabhida region in KwaZulu-Natal Midlands are demanding a regional conference. They are saying they are ready for the conference, but this is despite the fact that the National Executive Committee of the party has slammed brakes on all outstanding regional and provincial conferences up until after the elections next year. The branch is marched to Luthuli House to meet with the Secretary General of the ANC, Ace Magashule. Right now we are joined by one of the representatives of the branches, Sithembi Sonkuna. Babunkuna, thank you very much for your time. Why are you demanding this conference? Because the NEC said all conferences will be convened after the elections.
Thank you, Spamandla. Firstly, we want to state categorically clear that the decision of the NEC is unfair to Moses Mabhida region. It's also unconstitutional. In the first place, Moses Mabhida region was ready for conference as early as June 2017. But the then Secretary General issued a directive that conferences will sit after the national conference, which was held in Nasrec. After that, then we were ready because all 78 branches were audited and were ready for the conference. Then we waited, and then they were dilly-dallying, and then we even took a stance. We went to court, and there was a court order that was issued that allowed us to sit the conference on the 16, 17, 18 June 2018. That conference did not sit because the current PEC also took an ambiguous decision and said that there are people who are threatening to interdict the conference. We then said, but there is a court order. But we ended up sitting for 3 days in the venue without the conference. Another date was set. Then we gathered and we were ready. On the 11th hour to registration, we were told that there are people who have written a letter that the conference will be interdicted if it carries on. And it surprised us that a letter can then stop the conference. But they then assured us that the conference will carry on.
Now, you are demanding this conference, but it's clear that the NEC and the PEC are not in favor of this conference. Are you going to court to demand it, to force the upper structures to grant you this conference?
By virtue of having followed all the internal processes, we have even went to Luthuli House, spoke to the SG. If they are not bulging to our demand, that will be our last option. We will be left, we will go to court very much against our will. But we are still believing that there is still room for the NEC to back down and to be considerate, because the current RTT was rejected by branches and it will never be accepted. So if they are not prepared to listen and to accept our call, we will be left with no option but to go to court, since Constitution allows us to do so.
What was the response of the Secretary General when you met him at Luthuli House?
We spoke very well with the Secretary General. He even stated that as we arrived on a Saturday, on a Monday, the officials of the PEC were there requesting an extension for the Moses Mabhida region conference to sit, a 3-week extension. Then they said that, yes, the NEC took a decision, but he then took our memorandum. He promised that he was going to table it to the NWC and the special NEC. But unfortunately, up to now, we haven't had any response from the office of the NEC, of the SG. We are still waiting for that. We believe that he will need to come and address us. But nonetheless, we must say it up front. We are not accepting anything that says the conference is not going to sit. As branches, we are determined and we are prepared to fight until the end.
But some will say you are defiant, you are going against the decision and the directive of the upper structures. If the NEC says no conferences, you are demanding this one. Don't you think that's ill-discipline?
No, not at all. The reality of the matter is, whilst the NEC is the decision-making board in between the conference, it needs to do that within the ambits of the Constitution. The Constitution states that a regional structure has a span of 3 years. If it expires, an interim structure can be put in place in a space of 6 months. After 6 months, a conference must sit. A conference must sit. So we want the NEC to be considerate and act within the ambits of the Constitution. That it has powers, but it does not have powers to override the Constitution.